Hello everybody, I'm here with a 10 card video for the April 2018 Flavor of the Month card kit for Scrapping for Less. I am a kit ambassador for the card kit and I showed you an unboxing last week and I will link that in the description below in case you missed it, but we're jumping right into the card making. This is a long video, so grab a cup of tea, coffee, cold drink, because we're going to be here for a while. So, card number 1, I am using the adorable Stamping Bella Tiny Towny Daffodil Girl, and I did a poll on the YouTube homepage. Well, I don't know if it's the homepage, but I did a poll asking if you prefer having some of the coloring left in with the possibility of videos being longer, or if you preferred not having the coloring, and there was almost 200 votes and the majority of you said that you wanted to see the coloring. So I have a bit of coloring for some of the cards and I skip it for others, but I just wanted to show you the colors I was using for her dress. So I'm using Y13, 15, and 17. And I'm just going lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. I don't really have a rhythm. I think I've mostly switched to doing my dark colors, but on this I laid out the light colors so I could see where I wanted the shadows to be. I'm not going to show you the rest of the yellow, but I am going to show you the colors that I'm using for the green, which are YG03, YG25, and YG17. So I'm using that for her shoes and her little headband. That's not going to take too much time to color at all. For the skin tones, you can see the colors here: E00, E11, E13, I believe, and then R20 for the cheeks. So I left the skin coloring in just so you could see where I'm shading. I'm mostly using the stamp package that the stamp came in as a guide, but basically you just want to make sure that you're highlighting under the hair where anything touches. So for example, her dress touching the arm, and then here where her head is kind of over her arm, and then I just wanted to add a little bit of color on the top of her hand, under her dress on her legs, and then where her legs cross, and then at the bottom there would be a shadow as well. So then I'm going to go back with my mid-tone, and then at the end I will blend that all out with the lightest color, which is the E00. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. As I was saying, I would love to do 10 card videos as much as possible with the card kits. That may not be possible every month, just based on what I have going on, but I really love these kits and I love playing with them, so I'm sure you will be seeing many 10 card videos from me, and then if not, multiple cards with the card kit. So moving on to the hair, I'm using E25, E27, and E29, and this is a very dark brown, so I'm just going in with my darkest to figure out again where I want the shadows here. Doing very simple hair coloring. I am not the most efficient. I don't know if efficient's the right word, but I have a lot of work to do on practicing my hair coloring, but she's only got a little, so we're not going to fuss too much. So I am going to stamp the sentiment. This is from the Spring Bloom by Scrapping for Less and Brutus Monroe sentiment stamp that came. There was also a flower and like a dandelion image. So I'm just going to use, this is the really pretty green pattern paper with the circles on it. I'm just trying to see here. That's foil dotted cardstock, it was called, and there's no company associated with that. Then I thought it would look cute to make it look like she's throwing confetti or whatever out of her hand. I just love the position of her hand. She has so much attitude here. So now I'm just going to ground her a little bit with a C marker and then blend that out with the blending pen. And I'm going to do a little bit of glossy accents on the flowers on her shoes and then in her hair. and the headband as well. So as you may have noticed, if you've received the card kit, I am not sticking to collection here. I am jumping. I put everything into kind of one container and I'm just grabbing as I go. So for card number 2, I'm using sketch number 3 and I'm changing it from landscape to portrait. And I'm using some of the paper in the paper collection. This paper was so gorgeous, and it is the Spring Market by Echo Park. So pretty. I love the flowers with the black and then the yellow to kind of mute it out a little. So I cut out a stitched oval die here with one of the wood grain papers that I got in my kit. And now I'm just going to stamp the sentiment hello, and this again comes from the Spring Bloom stamp set by Scrapping for Less and Brutus Monroe. So I'm just stamping that a couple times. And then I am going to adhere the oval straight down onto the card base. And the card sketch had some banners, so I just used some banner dies that I had in my stash, and I cut out 3 different banners. I'm going to stick her on. I did pop her up with some foam adhesive, and then I'm going to put the banners on. Now, after the video, I did take some foam adhesive and I curled up the bottom of the banners and stuck some foam adhesive under there to give it some dimension, and a little bit of shimmer glitter pen here to finish off card number 2, and then we're going to jump right into card number 3. So card number 3 is using the Adorable Rain Frogs by Pink and Main. This little guy is so cute. He's adorable. So I am going to color him up using, again, the green combo. So I'm fairly new to getting my Copic collection, and so many color combinations I only have in a set of 3. So again, using the YG03, the YG25, and the YG17. And this looks like real-time coloring. I don't think I must have forgot to speed this up, so you're kind of getting a sense. Well, that looks sped up a little bit. I can't tell. I usually speed up my videos ×2 when I'm doing coloring or distress inking or anything like that. But this is looking... that's a little sped up. Forgot his little eyebrows, eyelashes, whatever they are, things on top of his eyes, so I had to go back and do that. Now I'm going to use yellows for his little raincoat. So again, Y13, Y15, and Y17. And that little raincoat is so adorable. So for the eyes, I'm using B02, B04, and B06. I'm also going to use this color combination for the puddle that he's sitting in. And then I'm just bringing in some BG11 for the lighter parts of his eyes. So for the umbrella, I actually did some paper piecing. So don't worry, I won't be coloring this whole image on camera. But for the handle of the umbrella, I did use some grays. So once I get this little puddle colored up, you will see that. I think I just used some light C1, C3, but we'll see here in a second. So going darkest to lightest with this one. Now this blue is very vibrant, but I thought the bright green could handle this bright blue, and it just gives a lot of color to the card. So loving that. Probably should have sped this part up just a little bit more. But for those of you that like coloring and slower videos, then this is perfect for you. So here we go. Yeah, I use C3 and C1. I'm just using the C3 here to see where I want the darkest parts. And then I went in with my Memento black marker here. I wanted to darken up his eyes, and just look at how much those eyes come to life just with darkening that up a little bit. So then I'm going to use a white gel pen, and I use that for the sparkle in his eyes. And then I decided to do some dot detailing around his little body and his hands, which I think added so much character to this sweet little guy. He just looks so happy even though he's getting rained on. So here we go. I used some of the Spring Plaid paper from Lawn Fawn, which was from collection number 2. And he's done. I'm going to fussy cut him out. And now I'm just using a edge die. This is a stitched edge die from My Favorite Things. And I'm using some of the paper. I believe that one was from the Vintage Bliss by Simple Stories. So I just wanted that to kind of ground out the bottom of the card. And then I'm using Worn Lipstick Distress Oxide ink to stamp out the sentiment, which says, to enjoy the rainbow, we must endure the rain. And I absolutely loved the sentiment. And I think this is a really great encouragement card, or just thinking about you, or kind of feel better. And then I used some of the Perfectly Plaid Spring pastel colored sequins that came in the kit as well. And I absolutely love how this card turned out. And I ended up putting a little pair of the rain boots on the inside. So now we're going to move on to card number, hopefully you're still with me, card number 4, and I'm using this sketch number 2. So I've cut out this piece of paper. This is the Simple Stories paper. And I'm going to use some fun foam here to pop up this little panel. I really liked the idea behind this card sketch. Of course, I didn't follow it to a T, but made it my own. But I loved the little inset smaller panel with the scalloped border to the bottom, and I just used a Lawn Fawn stitched scalloped border for that. Then I used some of the green Jelly Bean cardstock that came in the kit to back that panel onto. And for this frog, I colored him all with my Copic markers, and then I used my Memento black marker to outline him. So you can see he pops quite a bit. And then I'm using one of the little sentiment stickers. This one says Hello Spring, and I just popped that right hand side up using the fun foam so that it would be straight edge to the popped up panel. So that's card number 4. Moving on to card number 5. Oh my goodness, I loved these rain boots. So this is from the Pink and Main set as well. And I just cut out some of the beautiful paper by Echo Park with the rain boots on it. I'm stamping the same sentiment again, and I stamped that onto some wood grain paper. So I don't know how much you can tell in the video, but it has a very soft wood grain to it. It's so pretty. And then I brought in that green Jelly Bean paper cardstock again. I colored up the rain boots with my Prismacolored pencils. So I colored them up the same as the rain boots that's on that pattern paper, and I'm using 3 of them just to kind of go beside that sentiment. And I think this, again, is a really sweet kind of encouragement, thinking of you, kind of get well card that could be used, especially for someone who loves gardening or just being outside. I thought this was really sweet. So I did use my glossy accents for all 3 of the rain boots. I'm only going to do 1 here on camera because when you see one, you know what I did for the rest. And once I get that done, that's pretty much going to be it for the card. Love this one too. I love the pretty colors in that pattern paper. So now we're going to move on to card number, is it 5? Are we halfway there? Card number 6. That went by quick. So this is the little house mouse stamp. I have to grab my piece of paper here. And this one is, let me see, where are we? This is from collection number 4, and this is the Stampendous Crocus Droplet, and it's so sweet. So I stamped it out on some Canson XL watercolor paper, and you can see there I put the colors of the distress markers that I'm using below. So for the green, I'm using Mowed Lawn and Twisted Citron. Now I have sped this up quite a bit so that you weren't sitting here forever, but I wanted to show you, seeing I don't really do much with this card, I kept the coloring in because that's really where all the work is for this card. So this is, you know, a card that you would want to showcase the coloring, and you can leave the rest of the card pretty simple. So I'm going to finish up the grass here, and then I'm going to move on to this adorable little mouse who's drinking the droplet of water. And I decided to do him in browns. And I started out with some brushed corduroy and some tea dye, and then I blended that in. I loved him with the soft look, but I do end up making him darker. I'm not sure. I think I might even actually like it a bit lighter. So now I'm going to do the water droplets. And that was really simple to do. And then I believe I'm going to come in and do the background. Yeah, so I'm using some Broken China Distress Oxide ink. Now I did wet the paper with water prior to putting the little bit of blue coloring. I don't want there to be a lot of color. I just want it to be really subtle and pretty and let the image itself stand out. So here's where I decide to darken up the little mouse. So I bring in the walnut stain, and then for his ears and his nose I use tattered rose and spun sugar just to give his inside of his ears a little bit of color, or her ears and her nose, and then I'm just darkening up this little guy a little bit more. And I like it with the darker color, but I liked it light as well. So then I wanted to play with the liquid watercolor that came in the banana split level. So I'm using, it's called Celery, and I just use that to lay a little bit more of the green in the flower itself and the leaves, and then on the ground. So I'm just using a piece of the grape jelly purple cardstock that came in the kit. And then I'm going to stamp the sentiment, and this is from the Sunny Studio stamp set. And that one is called, very fittingly, Spring Greetings. So I'm stamping the spring greeting sentiment here on this card. I'm using some purple fun foam here to pop up this panel onto the card base, and then that card will be done. I love how there's just a little bit of the purple peeking out on all four sides of this card. So that is that card complete. And now we are moving on to card number 7. So here we are. I'm using the Spring Greeting. This is the Sunny Studio one. It's a mini stamp set. It's really cute. So I wanted to color the rabbit in mostly a warm gray and then with white patches. So I'm using W5, W3, W1, and for the white patches I'm using a little bit of W3, W1, and then blending that out with the blender pen. And this is just giving a very soft color to the bunny. So I'm bringing back the same green markers for the tulips. I actually used 3 tulips. And then I'm doing R85, R83, and R81 to make some pink tulips here. And I did go and trace around the bunny and the tulips for this card as well. So I'm using some of the Perfectly Plaid Spring Lawn Fawn paper. And then I'm using some of the cardstock that came in the kit. It's a grayish color, or like a brownie gray, and then a pink of pattern paper. I think this is the Simple Stories collection with the flowers on it. And then I just grabbed some ribbon from my stash. So this is some American Craft ribbon. I'm following the sketch fairly closely, but changing it up as well. I'm using one of the Doodlebug doilies that came in the kit, and then some wood grain paper here in a stitched circle. Just using some score tape to adhere down the little panel, circular panel that I've made here with the doily. I'm going to use 2 bunnies and 3 tulips, and that will be the focal images for this card. So I'm just going to get those in place. I do have some liquid glue on the back of those. They move around a little bit. I've popped up the bunnies on some 3M foam tape just to give them a little bit of dimension so they come to the forefront in front of those tulips. I'm going to put that little bunny down just slightly lower than the bunny to the right. I'm going to get those tulips in place. And then I'm going to adhere a bow. I just use a glue dot for that. And then I use the sentiment hello from the Scrappin' for Less Brutus Monroe stamp set again. So we're going to get that onto a card base. And then we're going to move right along to the next card. So doesn't that look pretty? It's such a soft pastel color. I love it. So moving on to card number 8, I'm using some more of the pattern paper, and I used the cardstock. I used some stitch circles to cut out 3 circles, and then I'm going to use some rose gold embossing powder by Lawn Fawn with these really pretty butterfly wood decorations, wood veneer, wood shapes, whatever you want to call them, that came in the kit. And I'm actually going to heat emboss these 3 times just to get them nice and opaque. And I really love the color of the rose gold. Now, if you don't have this, you can use any color of embossing powder that you have. You can also use your alcohol markers to color the little butterflies, but you can also use distress inks or any other inks that you have. So I'm laying down some of the green cardstock that came in the kit. It matched beautifully with the pattern paper that I'm going to be using. And I used an MFT die here. This is a scalloped rectangle die. And I'm going to place the 3 circles right down the middle of the card. So starting with the top and the bottom, trying to line them up. And then I will put the one in the middle down last. And then to finish off the card, I'm just going to put the butterflies. I used the smallest one that didn't have a pattern in the middle, and then the 2 bigger ones that had some cutout decoration to them, I put one on the top and one on the bottom. Now I thought maybe I'd use another sentiment from this sticker sheet, and I didn't end up keeping it on, but you can see that you could totally do that if you wanted to. I ended up leaving this card blank at the front, and I think I'm going to use it for my mother-in-law for Mother's Day. So I'll stamp Happy Mother's Day on the inside and send that off to her. So there we go. Now we're going to move on to card number 9. And I'm going to use the Spring Sprig die from Lawn Fawn that came in the banana split. So I'm using Twisted Citron, Worn Lipstick, and Raspberry Preserves. And I'm not worried about blending here because I'm just going to put these down on the different colors. I'm going to die cut those with my machine, and here we go. So I'm going to make like a wreath pattern with these beautiful little die cuts. And I was going to use the pink flowers that I cut out. That's why I showed you cutting them out. But in the end, I decided to grab these really pretty flower confetti that came in one of the sequin mixes. And I had ones that were pink and yellow. So I'm just kind of spreading those out, and I wanted to use an odd number because odd numbers are definitely more pleasing to the eye if you're thinking about design. I don't always think about design, but I do like my odd numbers. And then I decided to use some of these smaller flower sequins that came in that same sequin mix in the blue. And I'm just adhering these down with glue dots, and I should have used glue dots for the bigger flowers as well. I did go back off camera and adhere those down with glue dots. The glue didn't really work, but it was kind of what I had at the time beside me. So I'm just adhering these down, figuring out where I want this to go. I kind of played around with that one, moved it there, and then it had kind of stuck. So I had a hard time getting it back up. Those glue dots really do work, and I put it back where I wanted it to begin with. So here's where I brought out the little flowers that cut out from the die set. And I was going to put them on but decided not to, but I did use the little tiny, tiny, tiny circles that cut out from the die set. And I'm just going to put those on some of the little sprigs or whatever you would call those, to finish off the card. So it brings the pink in from the flowers. And then I'm also going to use one of these sticker sentiments that says thank you. I did have to trim that off a little bit, and then I wanted to give it a fishtail banner. So I just cut that off. So making a slit down the center and then bringing each side to that center slit. Didn't really know where I wanted to put this sticker. Probably should have thought about it before I put the flowers on. I do like it to the bottom right, but I couldn't get it to work with where the confetti or sequins were. So then I thought about there, but there was too much of a gap so you could see white, so it didn't look right. So what I end up doing is putting it to the top left by that right here, well, down a little bit. So I bring up that flower and then I stick it under there. And I really love that pop of bright pink for the sentiment. So I think this is a really pretty, bright, spring, cheerful thank you card. So I'm going to show you the close-up, and then we'll move on to card number 10. So I tried to make something that would appeal to many different people's style. So for this card, I'm using the flower. I did cut off the stem. This is from the Scrapping for Less and Brutus Monroe stamp set that came in the banana split level. And I'm bringing out my antique linen distress oxide, and I'm just going to stamp this pattern. I envisioned them to be daisies. So I'm going to stamp these out, and then I'm going to do some watercoloring. So I'm using Canson XL watercolor paper. Just trying to figure out where I want my sentiment to go, so I'm trying to leave room for it, but I probably should have stamped it a lot earlier than what I did because it gets stuck to my block and I can't quite figure out how I want this to go, but it works out in the end. The card police are not going to get me for this not being perfectly spaced for the flowers. So I'm bringing out the fossilized amber, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment, and it's just the happy birthday sentiment that comes in the same stamp set. And then I'm going to use a little bit of that fossilized amber with water. I should have zoomed in a little bit more here. So for the actual petals, I'm just using the antique linen and dragging a little bit of that out because I wanted the petals to look white. And they will look more white once I get the yellow on the inside of the flowers. But I'm just making sure to leave white space within those petals so they actually look white and not this ivory color that the antique linen would have made it. So here I'm coming in with the first layer of the fossilized amber for the inside. And I do a couple of layers of that, and you really see it come to life here as this yellow darkens up nicely. So I really went for a monochromatic look with this card. I'm going to use some yellow pattern paper to back it onto the card base. So this is the kind of front panel, and then I am going to go back and fix that. Yeah, that one was not looking quite done. So I'm just going to darken these up a little bit more. I'm using less and less water. And here we go. So I'm going to use, this is from the My Favorite Things pattern paper that came in the kit. And I'm going to put that pattern on. So very much a monochromatic white and yellow card here. And then I'm going to use some of the sequins from one of the sequin mixes. And I'm going to put an odd number of those on the card, and the card is done. So if you have made it this long, thank you so much. Please let me know down below what your favorite card is. I will be sending at least one of these cards to a random viewer who lets me know what their favorite card was. So thanks everybody for watching, and I look forward to designing again with the Scrapping for Less Flavor of the Month card kit next month. I can't wait to see what the theme is and what goodies there are. You really can create a countless number of cards with this kit. So go check them out. All the information is in the description box below. Thanks everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all really soon. Bye.